Let's build a Spotify clone using Next.js, TypeScript, Tailwind, and the Spotify Web APIs. We are using the Spotify Web Playback component to have the player of Spotify. So let's see how to build this. How it works: search an app, search a song name here, and it will fetch you the results of the song. Click it to play it. It will play. So let's start by opening this file that I have in the authorized.tsx file in the API folder. And yes, I have made a T3 app from the documentation. So just go to documentation here. I mean in T3, create this app. Choose Tailwind and that's all. So I have already made it here. And I am having a few things in here, which is the Spotify client ID. It is a string. Redirect URI, also a string. Then we have a generate random string function. So if I come to this code here, I mean this documentation, we have authorization code with PKCE flow. Basically, if we are using a web app like this, we can use this to authorize our Spotify app with PKCE flow. So we have to follow the steps in here in order to log in Spotify, which is basically this is just a code that we send. If I come down in here, we are having this code verifier that is taking the code verifier from local session storage. Okay, so we basically have the code of authorization that we are creating in here. Yes, so we have to use that in order to fetch token from the API. One more thing I want to mention here is we need one premium account of Spotify. Only then this will work. Now let me come to pages, index. Let me clear everything inside main here. Also let me install the DaisyUI library and this library called React Spotify Web Playback, which is just a player for React, for Spotify, I mean. So let me come to install. Let me install this DaisyUI. Open this, add the command. Then also add this one, React Spotify Web Playback. Click enter. It has been installed. Now let me close the terminal. Now if we come to this page, we have the home page. Yes. Let me make a folder here called components. Meanwhile, we have the folder. Yes. In here, what we can do is create a button to authorize our Spotify client. So if I come down, we have to call this function called authorize, which is calling the generate code challenge function, passing this, generating a random string, and then passing it as the code challenge in the search params in the URL. Then we are passing that search params, which is args, with the authorize endpoint, this link. So let me show you what will happen if I call this function. So you can read out everything in here and you will understand what is it we are doing in here, because I am not going to read it. Let me also export the plugin of DaisyUI in here in the file called, where is the file, tailwind config.ts. So just add plugin, require DaisyUI. The next step is just to create a button or get a button. So we can search a button in here. Let me grab any button. So let me just have the button of accent. And also let me come to styles, global.css. Let me remove utilities so that we have the screen. Now we will not have default styles like flex and so on. So we can remove this from here. We have to create our own flex boxes. So let me have accent button. So let me copy the button, paste it in here, and we will have it here, but we have to arrange it. So let me make a file in the styles folder called home.module.css. So let me import this file in here. We can import styles from styles from @styles.home.module.css. Let me feed it in here. So we can say styles dot a class name. So let me make main class name. Let me also rename the app this to be Spotify 2.0. Spotify 2.0. Okay. So I think I have not shown you one thing, which is how to get this client ID in here, because the rest of the things I have told you. So to have the client ID, come to dashboard after signing up to Spotify developer tools or dashboard, create an app. We need to have the app name, description, the URL of the app, and redirect URL. Basically, the URL where we will land when we are redirected after authentication. We have this app already in here. I have this app. So if I come to settings, we will have the client ID in here. That's all we need. So just create a variable const client ID in this and feed it here. That's all. So let me rename the button as authorize. Authorize. Save it. Okay, we have to do the styling of main in here. So we can say main display flex justify content center. Align items center as well. We have to give some height, call 100 VH. Now this button is in the center. We can click it and it will authorize our application. Let me call the function here that we are using to authorize, which is this function. So basically it will set a token in our session storage in here, which is the code verifier. So if the code verifier token we have in the session, we will not show the button. So let me make a use effect hook. Then what we can do is in the use effect, okay, we need a state here. So make a state called auth or not auth. This we can say state type, which is the called code verifier. Code verifier set code verifier equals to use state. So it will be a string. Now we have to set it. So set code verifier. Let me first get it in here. Let token or not token, or we can just set it directly. So let me just copy this thing, add this in here, but this will be not set item, it will be get item. And we need to remove this one, code verifier. So we have issue in here. If I hover this, it can be null. So if I, okay, we need to remove semicolon. Yes. So it can be null. So we can just add an empty string if we have nothing. Fine. So it's done. Now we have the code verifier in here from session. Let me hide the button. So we can say code verifier. If this exists, show something which is an empty fragment currently, else show the button. So if I open, I think, am I doing it correctly? If code verifier exists, we can show. So if let me open inspect, go to application tab, we have nothing. So if I give it a refresh, okay, I think we haven't authorized it yet. So click authorize. Okay, we have to call the function as well. So my bad. So if I just run on click authorize, it will run. We have to import the function from API folder, authorize from this. Now if we'll click the button, we will see this page of Spotify. Click agree. Now we have the code verifier in here. So it's working fine. Now we need one more function, just like this authorize, to get the token. So let me make it. Or if you come to Spotify clone, go to documentation, web API, click getting started. We shall have this function to get the token. So let me make a function here. Export const get token. So if we are calling any APIs from Spotify like album, artist, audiobooks and such, we have to feed the token in here. So the API endpoint is this. So let me just make a fetch call to this endpoint. This one, API token, fetch to this. Okay, why don't we store this much in a constant? So we can say const base URL equals to, let's say, this. Now we can simply feed it in here. So we can remove this thing. Then we can do base URL. So do we have slash Let me remove this last character slash. So if I just do base URL slash API, do we have API in here? Yes. So we don't need to use API in here. We can just do token. So this will fetch the token from our this request. So we need to pass a few things here, which is the method, which is the post method. Then we need to pass the headers as well. So let's say headers. We also need to pass the body. So let me add the body in here. So the body will contain these things: grant type, code, redirect URI, client ID, and the code verifier that we already have in the code. So if you check, it will be there. Then we will make a fetch request to this endpoint, and we will just pass the body as a string. Then we can just do these things. I think this is not needed. Let me skip this. Save. So if I now run the function called get token, it will get the token from the local storage, session storage. So this should be session storage. Save it. Now when to run the function? So when we are logging, or when we are, I can say, clicking the button of authorize, when we click the authorize function, only then we should call the function of get token. So we need to call this get token function in this use effect hook. So when our page mounts, the function will run and it will get the token from the session storage. So let me delete these two things from here. So if I refresh, we have this authorize button here. Click it, just agree on this, and now we have both of them in here, token and the code verifier. We need to also create a state here. Const, we can say auth token set auth token. So equals to use state, make it an empty string. So when we are setting the token, let me return the token from in here. So this is the place, or we can also do this, which is, okay, let's do it in here. Let token equals to session storage dot get item. Let me add the key name, that was access token. And by the way, I think we don't need the state here because we're doing it in local. Then we will do if token exists, only then, or if token is not here, only then call this get token function. So if I now open network tab, give it a refresh, we are not calling this get token function because we have it already. But if token is not here, if it is expired, we will see, or we will call the function called get token. So this is done. Now we need to write the things for our, let's say, player. So let me make a component here called, a folder called player, and in here two files, one for the JSX or TSX, other for styling. So we can say player dot module dot CSS. This player will be a functional component, so make a player in here, save it. Now let me import the style file. Import style from player module. Fine. So here we will just call the APIs. So if I come to this API called search, so we can have this search query at the top. For that, we need to have an input element. So let me get it. Text input. Let me just grab any input. Let's say this one. Copy the JSX and add it in the player component. So we need to import the component in here. Import player from components player. Render it in here, the fragment. Save. And now we will see the input element in here. We can type anything, it will come in the input. Let me make a state here called search input. Set search input equals to use state. It will be a string. Sorry, it will be, yes, a string. Now on change, this will take an event. Then we can run a function search or set search input event dot target dot value. It is done. So in the input, let me add the value here, value property called search input. Now whatever we type will be inside the search input. So we will call a function when we, let's say, can we add a button for search? I mean we can add, but we will call a debounce function, which means when we just stop typing for some time, our API will be get called. Let me make a function in the authorize, but this should be, let me create a function here called, we can say search songs or search tracks dot tsx, maybe track, not tracks, make it a, sorry, this should be not a component, it will be a function. So export const get tracks and arrow function. So now come to documentation here in the web API. We have this search query, and let me have the base URL from the top. So basically we are calling it here, no we are not, so we don't need the base URL in here, so just copy it in here because we will need it in here. Save it. Now what we can do, just call the API. So we can say fetch, we can add the URL of the base, I mean base URL. Let me just have this in here, base URL, and then we have this slash search, which takes a queue property, which is a string. So we need to get the search query in here, and then we have to feed this search query to the search param. This will be a string, so make it a string. Now we also need type of, which is, sorry, we need type, that what type of thing that we are searching for. So it is a, is it a, I can say it is a, is it an album or an artist or playlist or track or episode, something like that. So give ampersand type. So initially let me make the type as, what is it, track. Save. So this fetch API will run, call this using search query and such. What else we need to pass here? We need to pass the header, which is this. The header will take the code and that's all. So what is next? Nothing is next. We can also pass the limit, which can be 10. So limit is the optional parameter, but let me pass it. So and limit will be 10. What else we have? We have offset and include external. Fine. So if I save this, now what we need is close authorize. Come to the player. We need to make a call to this API, a debounced call. So we can say const, or maybe make a use effect hook. In this use effect hook, we can just add a variable let debounced equals to set timeout. In the set timeout, we can just have a timer which can be 2000 milliseconds. In here we will call the function of search track. So we can call search track. Okay, the name is get tracks, not search track, sorry, get track. Then we have to pass this search input in here. So pass it, no errors. Whenever we change the search input, we will run the use effect hook. It will, yes. Then we need to do clear timeout, and we have to pass this debounced, and we have to return this clear timeout function. So when this unmounts, we will not call the function. Basically what it means is, if this changes or if it keeps changing, we will call this and it will clear the timeout. It will not run. But if I type something and wait for 2 seconds, only then it will run. So in the search track, the fetch API we have, we can just have dot then, or why don't we just wrap this in a try block, add it in here, make a catch block in here. If we have an error, we will catch it in the console. Now what we need to do is make the function as async and await the fetch API call. Save. We also have to return the data we are getting it from here. So we can say return await fetch. Let me come to player. So we need to have a state here called const search results. Set search results. Use state. So initially it will be an object. So make it an object. So just set it in here, whatever we are getting from the result. Now let me just do a console log of this in here. Let's see what we get when we search something. So if I search for, let's say manja. Okay, we are writing a promise. Okay, we're calling the wrong base URL in here. So let me replace it with this. Save it. Now let me try this. Manja, search it. And we are getting 404 error now. Now what? Service not found. I think the API is wrong. Okay. This is extra slash. Remove it. Now we are getting 200. It means it's successful. We have tracks and such. Open the console, but it is pending because it is a promise. Okay, let me make a function here. CSS const fetch tracks. This function that we are having, we have to push or we have to copy this function called set search in here. Make the function as async. Make a response variable equals to get tracks while passing search input in here. Then set the response in the set search results. So save it. If I give a refresh, by the way, the function here will be await. Save and instantly we will have an error. So to fix it, we have a pipe and empty object. Save. Let me search for the query now called manja. So it will be here. One more thing I have to do. We need to call this function, which is called this function get tracks only when we have the search input defined. So if the search input is empty, we will not call it initially. Save, give it a refresh, and if I search for, let's say, manja, we will get the items in here. See, the thing is, it is a JSON response. So let me also make a response variable in here, and then in here return response.json, return the JSON format. So if I search this in here, we will get all the tracks. We can filter it out from in here. So come here, we can do console log search results dot tracks. The thing is, we need to have a track object in here also. Save. We need, okay, so we have tracks. We also need items to get it from it. So add items, add it as an array. We need to have tracks dot items as well. Now if I just search for, let's say, manja, we will get array of 10 items because we are having 10 as limit. The type is track and we have search query. Perfect. So we have the items, I mean we have all the keys in here called artist, disk number. We are going to use this URI and also the name. So basically let me have the images from in here, or what we can do is we are just calling the response. Okay, we're setting it where? In here. So why don't I just set dot tracks dot items as or after response in here. We will get an array. So the thing is, we don't need all of these items, so we can just filter through it or map through it. So we can say map, we can say track. We need to make or we need to return only a few things from in here. So we can say return an object. So we can just return, the first thing we have to return is the, let's say, name of the song. So name will be equal to track.name, comma, then we need the URI. So have the URI in here, track.URI. Then we need, if you come to albums, we have the images in here. So we can have images, which is inside the album, dot images we have. Okay, so in the images we have three images, three qualities. So let me choose the first one. So album.images 0, this will be not album, this will be track.album. the image is 0 and the URL of the image. So one more thing I can add is the album name, the movie, or the, if there is an album, we can say album name. So this will be track dot album then name. Now this is, we have an issue that we have to add a type in here. So it will be an object. In the object we can have name, a empty string, then track, track, then URI, also empty string, then images, or what is it, images, yes, which is the, so images in not inside this. So if I save, we will see that, okay, we can just add this. So we can just say images, we can, so images is having a track, so make an object. Inside we have album, it is also an object. In the album we have images, which is an array, and we have an issue. What is the issue? Okay, album, this should be, the thing is, they should be album, so we can remove one level of the stuff in here. Now save it. Images object is possibly undefined, so we can say, what is undefined? Object. Images, in images we can have an object again also called URL, which will be an empty string. Then lastly we have this album name. So after album, add the album name, then it will be named as, so we have album, one sec, I think I'm doing something wrong. So album name we are having, yes, which is inside, it is not inside. So album will have, or album name will be having an album, and album will be having a name, which is a string. Okay, I think what we need to do is, in the album we need to add the name in here in the album object, because name is inside the album object. So do it and save. Now this is done. If I come to, or if I just come to in here, we will get only 4 items in the array. If I search something, I mean 4 items in the object. Now we can just map through it. We can just copy search results, come to the bottom. After the input, we can make a div. In this div, we can just do search results dot map. Let's say track. What is the issue in here? Okay, search results is an object. Make it as an array. So track, I mean in here we can make an object. We can just do this. We can return a few things. So we can make a div in here as well. In the div, we can return a p tag, and we can add the name. This will be track dot name. We have to add the name in the track in here. Name will be empty string to initialize it. So if I search something in here, the name will pop up. So let me search Manja. We will get all the names of the song. Let me give some class names in here. So we can say this will be styles.grid. This will be styles, or class name we have styles.inner grid, or inner, just let it be inner. Come to module, say grid, display as grid template columns, or sorry, we have to repeat 4, let's say auto, I mean 4 in one row. Now let me also have the images in here. Add an image tag called img source, then just add the images. So we can say track dot image or images, save it. Need to also add it in here as a string. Now we have these images on each track. Give this image a class name of styles dot track image. So copy this one, come in here, we can say width. What is the width in here? It was 650 and such, but if you see that none of them are, I can say, aligned properly. So if I say Manja, the results will come in here. We have to do width, say 200% or pixels, not percent, just pixels. Height also 200. Save it, and now they are properly added in here. in the grid made a gap of 20 px. So one thing I have to fix it, if I come to global.css, so not global, the home.module.css, make the height to auto because it is overflowing. Like it is not overflowing, it is fixed. So we cannot see the search bar in here. So make it auto. Let me refresh the page. It will be at the top, the search bar. So what we can do is come to the search track. I mean the player. We have the search input. We have input and border and such. We need to do something in the grid. Yes, in the grid, make margin top 30 px. We also need to add some padding. So in the home module, just add padding 20 px. Now let me search for manja. The results will come in here. The thing is, it is going on the left side. So what we can do to fix this is come to player module. We can just do justify content center. No, it will not work. In this div, give a class name of, I can say, player or styles dot player. Come to CSS, then just do player display flex justify content center flex direction column. Now it is perfect. Give it a refresh. Okay, the thing is we need to make align items center as well. Now let me search for manja. We will have the results in here. We don't need the justify content center, so remove it. We have this results in the track image, or not in the track image. In this div we have inner. Copy the class of inner, come here. Let me add a border or text align as center. Now let me add padding 20 px. We have a padding of 20. Let me add margin to spread the items. So margin 20. Wait a second. This should not be in here. If I come to this player, we have track name. Add a class name of the add the class name in the track name. We can say styles.track name. Now let me come to the CS module of player. Do track name margin top 20 px, font size 24 px to make it big. Okay, this is working. I guess I can increase the size of the images to make it to 50. It is now big. I guess we can also do justify content center in the grid in here, but it is not in the center. Guess we have to do it here. No, it is not working. So what can be the issue? Is it the gap? No, it is not the gap. If I make it 5 auto, what will happen? Yes, 5 auto is fine, but the images are getting shrinked. So in the track image, we can say object fit contain, or not contain cover. Yes, now they are, I think, fine. So I guess that's fine because they are just images. Now we need to also do on the inner cursor as pointer. If you hover any cursor, it will be a pointer cursor. Now we have all the data. Let me create a function to get the current track. So const get current track equals to use state. I can say empty string. What I am doing, I shouldn't make use state. This should be a function. So we can just get the current track in here. I mean current track URI. So this will be a string. So make it so. The current track or get current track will run when we click the function in here called, when we click the div in here. So on click, the thing is on click, we can call a function of this get current track, and we have to pass track dot URI. If we are passing URI, we have to get it in here in the object, initialize it like this. So we have this in the state. Perfect. Now we have this URI. What we can do, get it here and then play the function. Make a state here called current track set current track equals to use state. We can say empty string. But the thing is, let me just set it in here. Just set current track URI. Save. Now let me have this React Spotify web player. Import it at the top. Let me make a div. Let me have this in the div. So we need the token from session storage. So do we have it in here? No. Let me get it. Let, const, we can say access token set access token equals to use state empty string. Okay, empty string. Let me make a use effect hook. Do we have a use effect hook? It is for search. So make a use effect, and in the use effect we can just set the token in here. So we can select token equals to session storage access token, basically session storage dot get item, then set it in the access token. So it can be empty, it can be token or a null property. So if I do null or empty string, it will be fine. If I console.log or check this token, let's see what we are getting in the console. Open the console, we are getting this token. Yes, so it's working. And also we are calling the API. Basically we are just running this and it is calling our API. Now we have to add the token in here. So what we can do now is we have to add a property here called play. But before that, let me just do this thing. It is not designed properly. So make a class name in here. We can say styles dot player. This will, I guess, clash with this style name. So we can say Spotify player. Now let me copy Spotify player, come to module, add this in here, say position as absolute, bottom 0px, it is in the bottom. We can say width 100%, it has been increased like this. Now let me search for manja. We will see all the results in here. And okay, the thing is, we need to make it not absolute, we need to make it as fixed. To fix it on the bottom bar like this. Perfect. So if I check in here, can we change the color of this? So if I come all the way down, we are having this white color. So we can say bg colored as this in style prop in this player. So add it in here. Let me remove some extra things and like all the things and just make bg colored as black. So 212121. Save, and it is not, it is black. Yes. The next thing is the color. So make it as white. So it should be 333. Save it. Let's check. It should be white, but it is not. Why don't we make the loader color to be this? What is this color? I think we should be all thing, everything else will be white. I think I missed a quote in here. Now what else we need? Track artist color, basically add it CCC. Then we have track name color triple F. Why don't I add this in the color, like make it white triple F? Because yes, now it is white, but it is too white. It is too white. So make this FFFFFF, and it's here. Now I think this should be also white. Slider color. So it is white. It is basically the volume. Then we have track artist color, that should be black. So if I add black text in here, will it be black? I think the current artist is not in here. We have also track name color, so also make it as black, or it should be white. They should be white as well. So make FFF 6 times. Now what should happen is, this is taking a array of the array of URI string. We need to add our current track in here in this array. So when we click a song in here, it will play automatically. So let me click this song. But if you see that it is not playing, so we need to add one property here called play. Now click it. If I click some other song, let's say it's all South Indian song, you can pause it or click next. The thing is, next will not work because we only have the current song reference in here. If I add this property, let me have an, okay, if we add search results, let's say here, if I add search results dot map item, then we return item dot URI. In this case, it will play automatically. We can click next to play the next song. There should be an object containing URI. It will be a string. Now save it. Yes, so it is working. Let me search for some songs from this person or this song. The song will be here and it will play automatically. But that thing is, we don't want that. So I guess we have to revert the changes back. We only want the current track in here. So if I choose, let me cut it, paste it, click the song in here, it will play. Let me search another song called, we can say, let me pause this. Let me search for a song called, yes, this song. After some time, we will see the data in here. So okay, let me do one more thing. The images that we are having are loading very slowly. What we can do, come to the mapping in here, make it as 1. So what we have to do, make one more object and it will go away, the issue. I think that's a little bit difficult. So now if I search a song, let's say we can say this song, the results will be in here after some time. You can just play it, it will play up. Okay, one more thing, let me just make the black to, this black to green because it is not looking fine to me. This is a safe color. We need to have the color of the slider. So which is the color of slider? Slide handle color. So okay, one sec. If I just drag it, it will be white. So we need to change two things. First will be slider color. So let me copy slider color, paste in here. It will be green. Now we need to change slider handle color. So slider handle color. So make it as, let's say, what can we make this? Make it white maybe. Save. This will be white. Fine. Or if I add white smoke in here, will it work? Yes, it will work. So if I can play, it will play. So that's how we can create Spotify player in our Next.js app. One more thing let me do is increase size of the input. So if I come to player module, we are having this, let me remove the button. We don't need the button. So we are having the player module. We have this search input. So in the player, just make width as 100%. Will not work. So I can just do player and dot input, or I think we can't add dot. I think we cannot add anything. I need to make the size of this to be big. So wrap this in a curly bracket, change this to a template literal, then add another curly bracket with dollar, the styles dot input. Come here, do a dot input width 300 px. Now it is big. Yes, it's working. Let me search, or let me change the text in here, the placeholder text. This will be search a track. Save. It's working. We can now search a song and we can play it. Matar paneer. Let's do one more thing, and that is separate the Spotify player in a separate component and add the interface from interfaces folder. That's all.